terms of technical communication, so like right, the first question is why are we telling you this? Why do we even care? So yeah, I mean, one is that, like we said, you need to be able to communicate your understanding to others, whether they're engineers or they're not as technical people. Lots of times they might be product people, and product people actually, if you communicate things well, can get a pretty deep and technical understanding of how the system works underneath. The other thing is, of course, to like clarify thinking in your own brain. Right, so a lot of you may know the quote, right? The Einstein quote, which is, if you can't explain something to a 6-year-old, you probably don't understand it well enough, right? And that is true. You'll realize that, I think, lots of times when you start trying to say something, you'll find yourself speaking vaguely or not precisely or not using exactly the right word. And normally that's a reflection of a lack of like precision in your understanding. So this is a good way to to check, right? I think for a lot of you, I said, when you're preparing for the technical interview to get in this course, I said a good way to check your understanding is to talk it out loud, right? Everything that you're typing, explain why you're doing that. So that's very, it's a good way to check your understanding and also just clarify your own thinking. I said, it's okay to write it out. For me as well, I write a lot of curriculum. That's a big part of what I do every day. So that clarifies my own thinking, right? It allows me to like think critically about how I want to explain something and how I understand something. And that's a good practice for you as well. So if you're having a hard time, or you feel like, well, I'm not at the point where I can just explain with precision everything that I'm writing in code, try writing it out first. And then you can always look it up, right? Or Google to figure out exactly how to explain something. The other thing you can do is, of course, look back at the reading and see how did I explain it, right? Because like I said, I've been teaching this for a long time. I have to go through this, writing out the curriculum. Purva's writing the curriculum as well. So we both, this is a craft that both of us have practiced. And so it's okay to look to see how we're explaining things. And then I have this bullet point, foreign language. So this is because, when I was prepping for this lecture, I was thinking about how when I was studying abroad, I was horrible at Spanish. And I did not enjoy that topic either. And about I'm abroad in Argentina, and after class, with a bunch of American students, they're all speaking Spanish after the lecture. And I asked them, like, why are you guys still speaking Spanish? And they're like, well, you're gonna, they told me, they said, well, you're gonna be working with this Spanish-speaking organization in like 3 weeks. How are you gonna communicate with them? Do you think you're just gonna get your fluency when you cross the border? It's not gonna happen. So it's the same thing. It's right. Yeah, it's gonna be uncomfortable and maybe not as. It might feel a little awkward, right? You're not exactly sure the words for doing it, but this is a practice, and that's the point. Is embrace, be a little bit uncomfortable. You're here to learn stuff, so it's okay if you doubt, if you don't, speak as naturally as you would if you just use your common skill set or your common way of speaking. But that's okay. You're trying to grow here, all right? So this is something to embrace. So let's just start with like our data structure. So how would we describe this? So we would say, okay, this is a dictionary, right? So just identify the data structure. It's a dictionary, and then the other thing is attributes, right? So it has attributes of title, genre, and budget. Okay, so for a dictionary, you can just say the attributes that it has lots of times. You can also say, key value pairs, right, where the keys are like title, genre, and budget. So attributes and keys are kind of, right, a little bit interchangeable. And then, of course, with a list, right, we say it has elements. If you think about the definition, I probably should have removed these. If you think about the definition, right, a dictionary, they're both collections, right, meaning that they have more than one set of items in there. But a dictionary is key value pairs, whereas a list is an ordered collection, right, of elements. So the main difference, right, there. So one is this key value component, and then with lists are ordered. Technically in Python now, there is some order to dictionaries as well, but like the way that you think of them, you don't really think of dictionaries so much as being ordered. You're not accessing their information by providing a number, right? You're accessing their information by providing a key. Okay? So yeah, collection of key value pairs, ordered. Okay, so this part, right, when we do something like this, movies equals, we are assigning the list to the variable movies. So we're assigning. Okay, you're going to be working with variables all the time, so just know how to talk about it, right? We're assigning this value to the variable, all right? Sometimes you'll hear the word like declare. So you could say we are like declaring the variable. You could say something like this. We are declaring the variable and assigning it to, and then specify the value that you're assigning it to, right? It's to the empty list. This this makes more sense in a language like JavaScript, where in JavaScript you can do something like let movies. And so what this allows, this is in JavaScript. All right? So what this allows is you're declaring the variable without assignment, right? You're just defining this variable, you're bringing it into existence, but you're not assigning it to any value. In Python, you can't do that. So whenever you declare a variable, you also have to assign it to a value in Python, right? But if you hear this language or you want to use this language, right, that's what it means. It's like we're bringing the variable into existence and we're assigning it to, here I'm saying like an empty list, all right? Same thing here. How do we describe this, right? This is we describe it by the data type. This is a list of dictionaries, right? Each element in the list is a dictionary. The dictionary has, right, attributes of title, genre, and budget. And then, okay. All right, so this, we all did this in the interview. How would we describe this? So you can say, again, right, we're declaring a variable of titles and assigning it to the empty list, right? And now, to speak precisely, right, we are iterating. This is a good word. We're iterating through the list of movies, okay, right? And then you can read this as for each movie. So, you can always just put the word for each. So for each movie in the list of movies, we are, accessing the title, right, or selecting the title, either one is fine, and appending that title, that movie title, to the list, okay? Or another way of putting it is for each iteration, right? By iteration, I mean, we move through we iterate once for every item in this list, and so each one of those, right, I don't even have another word, loops, a better word for that would be like an iteration, all right? So we're iterating through the list of movies. For each iteration, we're selecting the title attribute and appending it to the list, okay? Or you can also describe the data for each iteration or for each movie, right? We are accessing the title, appending it to the list. And that's basically it, all right, in terms of what we talked about so far, okay? So, in this, like I said, I really think this helps clarify your thinking because you should be able to identify, for each variable, what is the data type, right? So many times when I see issues, especially early on, it's because there's a confusion as to what is the corresponding data type for each variable. So for this, it's a list, right? For this, it's each element in the list, which in this case is a dictionary, right? And then what are we doing? For each item, we are, selecting this attribute, right? And we're selecting the attribute, not an index. So that's one thing I guess I did not put in here is if we have some variables, some elements in the list. So let's call this greetings. Okay, so we have some greetings, right? We're accessing this through the index, right? So the word is index. And you can say we are using, if you want to say how are we doing this, we are using the index accessors to select the element, or the index accessor to select the element from the list, right? as opposed to with a dictionary, we are accessing something through the key. All right. So sometimes, right, like why is this critical? Again, like if you're trying to problem solve and you're working with another engineer and you're not using the right word with them, they just have a limitation to how much they can help you, right? So it's important that you know the right language and you're using it, because like I said, like you're always collaborating as an engineer, and so for you to be able to translate your thoughts to another person is really important. All right, so this is the index, and you're using the index accessor to select the element, right, from the list. Cool. All right, so what we have next now is I'll deploy this reading, and then so move through the reading, maybe it takes 15 minutes or whatever, and then probably this will take a good amount of the rest of class, is this Soul Bike Sharing Lab. So for this, work in pairs. You can wait until your partner is ready. Press Shift Return. What you can see is, we're working with this data set that has, and the lab will kind of take you through what this actually represents. What you want to do is, if your result here, what you see below when you press Shift Return, matches what you see commented out, then you know you did it correctly for now. Soon we will move into like using VS Code, and you'll learn about tests, and we'll have tests that check your work. But for right now, this is the easiest way to get started. Okay. Cool. Questions about this lesson? Anything I can help you with? No? Oh, I did get something in the chat. DF and 2dict methods in prac work. Will that be covered later in the course? Yeah, we can talk about that. Good question, Conwell. So we can talk about that now. So we're really trying to keep you in Python land as much as possible, especially, we will talk about pandas about like 3 months in a data analysis section. But for right now, we're really trying to keep you in Python. However, we need to use pandas, or we choose to use pandas as an easy way to load in some data. All right, so what's happening here is that this points as a URL that points to a file, right? So it points to here, which is like on GitHub. I can't show you it, but it's on GitHub. And so now what we're doing is you're reading in what's called like a data frame, and that's a pandas object. And you can see the data frame feels almost like Excel, right, or a spreadsheet if you're familiar with that. It has various methods for accessing it, but we don't want you to start thinking in pandas. It will impede like your Python understanding. So instead what we do is we use pandas just to read in the data. It's fine if you want to we use it just to read in the data, and then quickly what we do, right, if this returns this thing called a data frame, which looks like this Excel file, then we call it DF, right, the data frame, 2dict records. And what that does is it translates this data frame into a list of dictionaries. So you can see that, here we have this row, and then this row, January 12th, 2017, January 12th, 2017, 254, 204. Here we have January 12th, 2017, 254, and then the second record, 2017, 204, right? So it's translating each one of these rows into a separate dictionary. That's the idea. So for us, again, this is a quick way to read in some data, read in a data set, and quickly get it into a list of dictionaries. Lists of dictionaries are all over the place in Python, right? Or even in programming in general, because that's generally like how people send you data. It's just a very natural format. So that's why we spend a lot of time working with it. Cool. Other questions? That was nice.
So how are we going to access this notebook?
Okay. So if you go to Canvas, and then you can press Command F and look for data types review, or you can just scroll down, and you'll see this deployed. You might have to refresh. To refresh Canvas, you can press or any screen, you can press Command R if you have a Mac, or you can just click on the URL, press return. Then you should see this, and you just have to click on it, and then it'll say Colab, and then from there you click on that. And now all these readings are interactive, so you can, interact with them, take your time, and then when you're ready, move to the next lesson, click on the Colab, right, and start moving through this. And I can take a screenshot so you just feel this. So this is what we're working on. And I'll put this in Slack. Cool. All right, so let me put you all into breakout rooms.